to the third of our three debates here at the North Dakota Broadcasters Association meeting in Bismarck. Thank you all for being here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Charlie Johnson. I used to be a broadcaster. Now I'm president of the Fargo-Moorhead Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I'm very happy that the broadcasters, Beth Helfrich, the executive director and the board, invited me to help out with these debates. It's been a great day. We've had two really good debates already between Heitkamp and Berg and Gullison and Kramer, and we're going to top it off with a really good one between our two candidates for governor. So first I'm going to run over the rules, and then I'll introduce our candidates, and we'll get going here. Same rules have applied throughout the day. 2-minute opening statements for each candidate, and we flipped a coin before we started. Senator Taylor will start, followed by Governor Dalrymple, and then the first question will go first to Governor Dalrymple. So 2 minutes for opening statements. Then when we get into the questioning, each candidate will have a minute 30 to answer, and then if they want to have a rebuttal or addendum or whatever you choose to describe it as, you can have 30 seconds for that. We have aggressive timers, as I've been calling them, sitting in the front here. They have 30-second and 15-second cues they'll hold up, and then when you start to go over, they've got a sign that says wrap, and they're going to hold it up where everyone can see it until you stop. So that's the way it'll go. And, we're a little bit lenient, but hopefully we can keep our time restraints going here. So, as I said, we had a coin toss. Senator Taylor won. Our candidates today are State Senator Ryan Taylor. He's in the middle of his third term as a state senator from District 7, which includes his family ranch near Towner. Mr. Taylor is the author of a syndicated column called Cowboy Logic and has authored a pair of books of Cowboy Logic. Welcome, Senator Taylor. It's okay to give him a round of applause.
Thanks, Charlie.
He is the Democrat on the ballot, challenging Governor Jack Dalrymple, who's the Republican. Governor Dalrymple served 2.5 terms as lieutenant governor and then became governor in December of 2010 when then Governor Hoban was elected to the U.S. Senate. He's running for his first full term as governor. Prior to running for lieutenant governor, Mr. Dalrymple served 8 terms in the State House of Representatives. Welcome, Governor Dalrymple.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Thank you.
It's almost pointless. At both of the other debates, I tried to suggest that we should try to keep the cheering and certainly the jeering to any kind of let's not do any of that. I understand that a little applause here and there is okay. So just try to, be polite. We're in North Dakota after all, right? Okay. Okay, opening statements, 2 minutes each, starting with Senator Taylor. Have at it.
Well, thank you, Charlie, and thanks to all the members of the North Dakota Broadcasters Association for hosting this first debate. This is what democracy is all about. Two candidates able to compare and contrast their views for the future of our state. And I think it's what the voters deserve. I want to start by recognizing my wife, Nikki, who made the drive down today. Her support means everything, and also our neighbors who are caring for our children when they hop off the school bus here in about an hour and a half. I also want to begin by greeting Jack. Jack and I have served together since I was first elected to the state senate in 2002. And we now, after all this time, both find ourselves on the ballot for governor for our first time together this fall. I want to say also that Nikki and I, we've had supper with Jack and Betsy, and there's no personal animosity in this race. This race is about North Dakota. It's about the future of this state, this special place that we all call home. I've called this place home my entire life. I was given an education at Towner Public School, 12-plus years as a young guy, and had the opportunity to get both my college degrees at our land-grant university at NDSU. Nikki and I have been blessed to have the opportunity to raise our family on the same ranch that my great-grandfather homesteaded more than 100 years ago. And that's a lot of why we're running for governor, as we look at what defines this place called North Dakota. Why we are here, this special place where we're raising our families that we all call home. There's change in North Dakota, and we sense that. We know that not all the change is good. We're thankful for our God-given resources that we've been given, but we also know that it's not the money that defines us from those resources. It's our sense of community, our family's safety, the chance for a better life from the education that we're given to ourselves, whether we're rich or poor. That's how we measure our success. And that's why I'm running for governor, to ensure those same quality of life issues continue for our kids and our grandkids.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Governor Dalrymple, 2 minutes.
Okay, thanks, Charlie, and thanks to all the broadcasters for arranging this debate. I am Jack Dalrymple. I'm the governor of North Dakota, and I'm running for governor because I believe that the knowledge, the experience, and good leadership is what is required for North Dakota as we enter into this period looking for probably the most exciting period of growth in the history of our great state. With good leadership, we can do great things. I've been providing leadership throughout my entire life as manager of our family farm operation at Castleton, as chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, as lieutenant governor, and now as governor of our great state. With good leadership and knowing that the job creation is going to come from a good environment, we have been able to accomplish great things and become truly the #1 economy in the United States. We have the lowest unemployment rate of all 50 states. We have the fastest growing personal incomes of all 50 states. And now we have a budget surplus that really gives us the opportunity to literally create our own future. A recent survey found that North Dakota is the best place in America for young people. Of course, rapid growth brings many challenges, and we're meeting those challenges, and we're getting the job done. Because of our surplus, we can invest in infrastructure, roads, highways, flood control, sewer and water systems. And we can also lower taxes, again, property taxes and income taxes, just as we did in 2007, 2009, and 2011. And we will meet our priorities in education, in human services, and in other needs. I am ready, I stand ready to continue providing the leadership that North Dakota needs.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Good opening remarks. Thank you. I'm going to start with a question that actually was one that came up later in our discussion with the Senate and House candidates today, but it's about energy, of course, which is on the minds of everyone. We're going to have a lot of questions about energy today. Back in 2008, drill, baby, drill was the mantra of one of the parties, the Republican Party. Some people gave some pushback on that. But it seems to have taken hold in North Dakota. I mean, there's a lot of drilling going on in North Dakota. In retrospect and in light of North Dakota and the nation's future, is drilling the best way to attack the energy problem? In this case, we get to start with Governor Dalrymple. Minute 30 on this.
Well, I think you brought up a number of questions all at once, Charlie. And, when we look at what's happening in western North Dakota today, I think that we need to realize that, first of all, we are creating incredible opportunities for our people. I'd like to tell a little story about a woman that I met in a small town in western North Dakota recently, who told me that even though it was getting very hectic and even though it was busier than she would really like, she was so happy because 3 of her children that she thought were going to move away from North Dakota have now been able to land high-paying jobs all within an hour's drive of her home in her small town. For her, this is a great dream come true. Her children close to home, all in excellent jobs. Now, we have to remember that these opportunities come with great challenges, and those are challenges that we are going to have to meet. That's why we're spending $1.2 billion currently on our infrastructure in western North Dakota. We're building bypasses. We're building sewer and water systems. We're bringing in law enforcement. We're providing more emergency services. And we're also increasing low-income housing as fast as we possibly can. And now I've proposed, going forward in the next biennium, an additional $1 billion on top of that to deal with our infrastructure needs. This is how we meet the challenges. This is how we stay on top of it.
Okay, thank you. Senator Taylor.
Well, Charlie, if the question is whether or not we drill, of course we drill. It's the only way to get oil. It's 10,000 feet below the ground. The oil is there, and no one put it there. I think sometimes there's so many people trying to take credit for what God put beneath the ground that we need to back up and remember that. We'll get every drop of that oil out of North Dakota. It's a question of how we do it and how do we care for the impact that comes along with that drilling. I was married in Keene, North Dakota, a little white church northeast of Watford City, and boy, there's drilling going on. My wife was raised right there in the heart of the oil patch. This has not come for free, and we can't do it on the cheap. As we're drilling up for oil in North Dakota, we're trying to leave just 8 to 11% of those oil tax dollars directly in the communities. We need to do better than that. You can't prevent problems by asking folks to come in 12 and 18 months later to get a grant to fix their roads and expand their schools and have more police force to protect them. It's changed their world, and we need to realize that. We have a responsibility to care for those places. Montana leaves 39%, Colorado leaves 65%. We need to do that. It's smarter spending because you prevent problems when the dollars are there in the first place, not having them come to Bismarck and ask for them back. We have to make sure that we protect and preserve why we're here, what makes this place special. We'll get the oil, but let's make sure that our kids and our grandkids who are here long after the oil is gone still have the same place to call home that we had.
Governor, you want another 30 seconds of that?
I think that the legacy of this economic prosperity is going to last for decades to come, and everyone will continue to benefit. I have to question your 8% figure there a little bit, Senator. I think if you look at the first year of this biennium, actually about 20% of the oil revenues goes out to political subdivisions, even more than the state general fund itself receives at only 17%. What people forget is most of the oil revenue goes into constitutional funds or into our property tax relief fund and is not generally readily available to go out to political subdivisions.
Another 30 seconds at that?
Well, there are certainly dollars available, but, we just got to remember this is about the people that have to live with the impact and making sure there's something left over for all of us across the state. Some provisions are constitutional. Some are just statutory. Some can be fixed by bringing the legislature into session and asking them to make changes that are within our power as the people of North Dakota to make sure that this oil works for us.
So, same topic. You guys obviously are well schooled on this, and we'll be starting with Senator Taylor this time. No matter how much money you put into the problem, and everyone obviously wants to pour more money into it, whether it's in a regular session or a special session, realistically, how far behind are we, and how long will it take to bring the western part of the state where all the development has happened so quickly? It was like 680 million barrels a day was the last thing I saw. That's incredible. How quickly is it even realistic to think you can bring things up to where it will seem like it's going okay? Senator?
Well, if we knew the answer to that question, we'd have the prize. Everything does take time, obviously. When we look at when I first came into the Senate, we had 90 million barrels of oil a day. Now you said 680. We're gonna, or 660,000 a day. We're gonna go to 1 million barrels of oil a day before we're done. We have to make sure that. I think there's obviously a lot of housing going on in North Dakota. There is movement there, but there's still a huge number of people living in crew camps. There's still a huge number of campers behind every thicket of trees. I think that looking at schools in particular, where the students are coming to the door and they don't even know that they're going to have classroom space for them, these things could have been fixed earlier on. This does take leadership. This does take some foresight. This means that when we were even in special session in Bismarck here in November for redistricting, we could have done more. We had to fight to even get more money in the impact fund. I was the one that had to ask for another $50 million and then have actually $35 million come forward. It takes effort. It takes leadership. It does take resources. I think we have to do more than brag about the surplus that sits here in Bismarck when there still needs to be met. There's limitations when you look at the weather. There's limitations when you look at getting those resources on the ground. It's time to catch up. We need to do it quicker. It may be more than a biennial session will allow.
Okay, Governor?
I think that really it's true that we are in a catch-up mode, but we're doing extremely well. In the special session, for example, we had the opportunity to increase the Energy Impact Fund by $35 million. That was something that was not just your idea, Senator Taylor. There are other people who saw the need for some additional impact dollars. We also know that the amount of commitment to our infrastructure has been dramatic, $1.2 billion. The DOT budget the time before was only $600 million. These are major, major investments in the West. They lead to a temporary bypass around Williston that takes 3,000 trucks a day out of the city and is now moving them around the city. It makes a big difference in the way people perceive the hectic pace of life out in the Williston area. We also know that we have the opportunity going forward to invest more in low-income housing, in emergency services, and all of the other infrastructure needs we have because we have the resources available. And how do they become available? They became available because we created a surplus in the first place, not just from oil. Actually, most of oil revenue is dedicated, as I said. We created it from building a great economy, having an active economy not only in the oil patch, but throughout the entire state of North Dakota.
Would you like to have another 30 seconds at that?
Well, the surplus comes from many places, and if you look at the pie chart, some is from oil tax, but sales tax has certainly got ties to oil income as well. Income tax has ties to the oil that's coming out of the ground, and we didn't put that oil there. That oil has been there for hundreds of millions of years in the making. You know, I think Williston would say that their sales tax contributes something to the surplus that's out there as well. Those are all dollars that need to come back in some shape, form, or fashion. And it does take people who will stand up and ask for it. It takes people who will realize that, you know, even flying over that country, there's needs. There's a lot of fewer left turns than there used to be.
Governor, 30 more seconds.
The point is that, you know, we can meet these challenges. We have the resources to do it. We know what we need to do. There are something like 8,000 housing units being built in the state of North Dakota this summer. The supply is increasing. We have cut the ribbon on several low-income housing projects in Dickinson, Williston, Minot. This is what we need. Apartment units as cheap as $395 a month. This is what it takes to get people the stability and the comfort that they need to really appreciate what's coming from this boom.
Let's move in a little tighter on the question of the people who live there and maybe are not getting oil money in some way, shape, or form. What specific plans do you have? And you both touched on this a little bit, but let's speak about it specifically. Plans that you would have to help the longtime residents of the area who aren't necessarily benefiting from the oil money and are finding it exasperatingly hard to make ends meet out there. Give us some specifics on that. We're going to start with Governor Dalrymple this time.
Well, Charlie, again, we have to first, you know, look at the incredible number of opportunities that have been created in that part of the state. There are some people, perhaps, who are approaching retirement age. They're not looking for a new job or anything like that. They may fall into a different category. But for a lot of people, even if they don't have minerals, even if they're not directly involved in the oil industry, they have the opportunity to build things, to open a business, to be a supplier, to be part of this booming economy in their own way. And believe me, the rising incomes can easily be measured. Now, when it comes to senior citizens, people who are at retirement age, yes, they're facing difficulty. And I have been to these apartment buildings that we have built in Williston and Dickinson, and I've cut the ribbon, and I've gone up to the common room, and there you'll see a lot of elderly ladies with gray hair who have just moved into a brand new building with a brand new common room and beautiful amenities. And they're paying a rent that is comparable to what they've been paying historically in the city of Williston. Are rents rising dramatically? Absolutely. But the answer ultimately to that is to supply more housing of all kinds to all people. That is the only thing that will bring rents back down where they belong.
Thank you, Governor. Senator?
Well, and Charlie, you ask how we can make life more like it was when it first started in the oil patch. And it's going to be a number of things. Housing is certainly one of those areas, and the state can do more. And with housing, it is a public-private partnership, using our Bank of North Dakota, using our Housing Incentive Fund, actually directly funding that. But there's also basic things that we all want for our families. We want to feel safe. we'll be calling for more money to help counties and cities have the police that they need so that families feel safe in their home. We won't ask the Highway Patrol to handle all these issues with a hold even budget. We'll be asking for more money to have schools actually be able to build the classroom space they need. Sometimes it's beyond temporary classrooms. We have an education policy that's laid that out. And we know that property tax relief is an issue across the state. And we're the first one to come out with a plan that actually $100,000 right off true and full value. You know, if you have a $200,000 home, that'll cut your property tax in half. That'll certainly help in the oil patch, as well as other towns in North Dakota. So child care is one of the ways that not only is going to be able to help our families, where we want our children to be safe and well cared for, it's also going to help the workforce issues that we're facing in western North Dakota. These are families that already have a house, but they don't have a place for their children where they can be cared for. And we don't throw $125,000 at a $28 million problem.
Governor, 30 more seconds.
We have already begun to address all of these problems. Child care is not new. That demand has been there for some time. We have provided millions of dollars to help expand capacity throughout the state, especially western North Dakota. That's what it takes to get more child care. We have proposed providing $225 million for schools for building grants and construction loans. That's what's going to get schools built. But we don't have to wait. We provided 85% of the cost of Williston to put portable classrooms into the city of Williston this summer. Those classrooms are in place. We paid for 85% of the cost.
Okay. Let's move on to Senator, I'm sorry, you get 30 seconds on that. 30 more seconds.
Well, if it's already begun, it's not being felt by the people I talk to in those communities, by the superintendents I've talked to who maybe at the very last minute got the money that they needed for the classrooms. Still wondering how they're going to get the money to interview the teachers to put in those classrooms. A room doesn't do much good if you don't have a teacher in front. And they're going to go back and ask for more property tax to pay for those teachers in an area that's already paying so much. So it may have begun, but it's not there yet.
Okay, we're going to switch topics slightly, even though you've already touched on everything seems related, doesn't it? Let's talk about property tax. On the June ballot, voters rejected an initiated measure that would have eliminated property tax in the state, and it seemed like almost all of the government officials, both local and state, thought that was probably a good thing that was rejected. But obviously, the fact that it got to the point where they tried to get this done suggests that property taxes are an issue to a lot of North Dakotans. So if you're elected governor, will you bring forward, or what kind of plan will you bring forward to further reduce property taxes and answer that bell that rang in June? Mr. Senator Taylor, you're first on this.
Well, back in June, before the measure was even voted upon, we did come forward with our property tax relief plan. We wanted to keep it simple. We wanted to make it understandable. We wanted to make sure the relief got to those who needed it most, people in North Dakota. We have the resources in North Dakota to take care of our own. That's a wonderful thing. But we have to have the leadership to enact the policies that actually get that done. We asked for $100,000 true and full value being taken off of those valuations. If you got $150,000 home, you've cut the taxes by 2/3. $200,000 home, you've cut it in half. We also applied that to the first $100,000 in farmland value. Farmland was increased by 29% in their valuations, and they're feeling the pinch as well. When Measure 2 was coming up for a vote, you knew that the angst was real. We knew that we didn't want to throw away the entire system, many of us, and that's how the vote came through. But the angst was real about people who knew that their family income, it was being wreaked havoc upon by the property taxes, and they were rising. We also asked for a renter's credit in our plan, which actually goes against the state income tax rather than the actual property tax. It's a step in the right direction to help those who are renting their home, renting their apartments that they raise their families in, so that they have some of the relief as well.
Governor?
Well, property tax relief is definitely one of my favorite topics, and I'd like to point out, first of all, that we have been providing property tax relief for the last several years. $400 million in the 2009 session, $500 million in 2011 in total tax relief, including income tax relief. And now we are proposing going forward that we reduce the school property tax by 50% further from where we are today. This involves no loss of funds whatsoever to the school district. In addition, we're proposing that we improve the terms of the homestead tax credit, which is targeted to our senior citizens. We think that we should allow $50,000 of income for our senior citizens and still be able to participate in the program. We think that we should not penalize them for having savings, and we should not count their Social Security income as part of the computation. This is going to be very helpful to people in that category. We've proposed $100 million in income tax relief, and we also like to give the statistic that if you add up all of the savings that have come about in the last two biennium, in the last two sessions, North Dakotans will pay $2.25 billion less in taxes than they would have paid before we began bringing forward these measures. The problem...
Okay. Senator, 30 more seconds on that.
Well, the numbers we should talk about are what we'll do going forward, because all the numbers from the past of what's been done in the past did not stop Measure 2 from getting on the ballot, did not stop the people that were most concerned about the escalation of their property tax. It was a good thing that we started funding schools at 70%. It's something we should be doing. But there's still needs. There's still needs in terms of those who are paying their property tax at the end of the year. And that's what our plan would do, more going forward.
Senator, anything you want to add? 30 seconds. I mean, Governor, I'm sorry.
Yes. The problem with the proposal that Senator Taylor has put forward is that it does nothing for commercial property. It does nothing for the small business owner who is clearly also a big property taxpayer. There's also a lack of equity in the sense that if you have property beyond the $100,000 threshold, what about that? It's cut off at $100,000. Also, the renter's credit that they proposed is not targeted. It's for anybody, no matter how much income they have. Our renter's credit is targeted specifically to senior citizens.
All right. Thank you. One of you, or both of you perhaps, at one point in this answer brought up income taxes. So let's talk about income taxes. Obviously, with all the oil tax money coming in, that's another tax that people are talking about reducing further in the state of North Dakota. So what's your plan specifically for income tax relief across North Dakota? Governor, you're first on this.
Well, again, income tax relief is something that we have been providing over the last several years. First, we proposed $90 million in income tax relief in 2009. Then it was $120 million in 2011. And today I'm saying that we can do another $100 million on top of that. About 40% altogether less income tax, individual income tax, than people would have been paying before. That's a big difference. Why can we do this? Because we have the resources. We are able to take care of our needs in North Dakota. We can meet our infrastructure needs. We can take care of all of our other education and human services needs. And we still have enough resources to provide this kind of tax relief. It's a wonderful thing, and it comes from our efforts in job creation. Overall, I would say that we have done our best to use a balanced approach in tax relief. We have not tried to ask for all of the tax relief to come in one category. And when we've talked about income tax relief, we have proposed it applying the same to all tax brackets so that the people who are in the lower tax brackets actually receive the greatest increase in income tax relief from our proposals. That's as it should be. And those are the folks that need to get that commitment, that liability down as low as possible.
All right, thank you. Senator, income taxes.
North Dakota's got a very competitive income tax as it is right now, and we're not going to raise any taxes in North Dakota, and that's a wonderful thing. We don't have any reason to raise taxes. We have to make sure we use the tax money we have fairly. Now, what I hear about in the coffee shops when I've been on the campaign trail, you walk in there and they're not talking about income tax. They're talking about property tax. You know, the income tax that we have in the bill that was signed last session by the governor, when we have those in the legislature, I always work to make sure that we targeted those who needed the dollars the most. are middle-income earners in North Dakota. And what was signed actually was magnified so that the higher brackets did get much more relief than the lower brackets on all ends. On the businesses, the small businesses got a less of a break than the big businesses. What we can do best is take those dollars that we have available when we're looking at tax relief, and we should put it in property tax relief, because that's what they're talking about. That's what they're concerned about. At the end of the year, it doesn't matter how much you made. That property tax bill comes due. And if you live in Florida or Arkansas, you probably won't get our tax relief from the property. But if you live here in North Dakota, you will. And that's who I'm looking to represent.
30 seconds more on that, Governor?
There's no question. Property tax relief is the number one issue. That's why we have provided in the last two sessions and again in our proposals approximately 75% of the tax relief that we're proposing is in property tax. That is where the sensitivity is. And why is it happening? Because the valuations of people's property in North Dakota is going up so rapidly. Everyone's house is worth more. Everyone's farm is worth more. Everything virtually in the state is worth more. And isn't that the way that we would like to have it?
30 seconds more?
I think we've covered the issue well.
Okay, good, because then let's move on to something else. In this case, and Senator, you'll be starting on this one. Let's talk about higher education a little bit. Lawmakers in North Dakota the last couple sessions seem to have taken a little bit of a disliking to the state of higher education in North Dakota. And in fact, it's gotten to the point where some of them have tried and could try again to take control of the system away from the North Dakota Board of Higher Education and put it into the legislature. Do you think the Higher Ed Board has failed to operate the system properly, and would you support that move in the legislature? Senator, you're first.
I don't think we need a wholesale change of how higher ed is in North Dakota. The reason we have a board of higher ed in North Dakota is because years ago they wanted to make sure that it wasn't politicized. And the moves that I've seen, or the proposals I've seen, would actually politicize it to a much greater extent. When I look at higher ed in North Dakota, I look at the students that we serve in this state who have a chance at a better life, a better career, a chance to better provide for their family. We look at a plan that we have to actually cut student loan debt in half, fully fund our North Dakota Scholars Program, make sure that the needs-based grants are to the extent that these kids don't have to owe $25,000 to $35,000 on average. I graduated from NDSU owing $7,000. You know, we worked hard, we took scholarships, and we had to borrow some money. You couldn't do it for $7,000 today. So we need to make sure everything is student-focused. I'm proud that I'll have an in-house national expert in our governor's office with Ellen Chaffee as lieutenant governor. She's served around the country, and she served as president of Valley City State. We will look at how we can take our current board, the appointments that are made, provide more balance. You know, this is a board that hasn't had an appointment from someone of the other party for 20 years. That will help make a difference in terms of how we manage higher education so that it is student-focused, to make sure that they have the opportunities that I had just 20-some years ago.
Governor Dalrymple?
I think we need to focus on the positives in higher education in North Dakota. Yes, we've had some difficult issues the last couple of years, but looking forward, we have to remember that a very high percentage of our high school seniors wind up enrolling in college in our state. We have great access to higher education in North Dakota. 11 campuses. People can go virtually throughout the state. We also know that we have this fact, which is that the Constitution says that higher education is governed by a board of higher education. And what they do is very important. But looking forward, we have a new chancellor. I have made 3 outstanding appointments, I believe, to the Board of Higher Education. I think with this new leadership and a new approach, we are going to see an entirely new era and a new approach to the way we handle higher education. Yes, we need to help students pay the tuition, and that is why we came forward in 2009 and proposed an increase in the financial aid, the needs-based financial aid for North Dakota college students of over 300% in one biennium. We also created a merit-based scholarship which rewards students who get good grades in high school, students who get a good score on their ACT test, and we are providing as much as $6,000 per student to go to college in North Dakota if they meet that test.
30 seconds back on that, Senator?
You know, the efforts of the past, appreciated, but still not enough to keep students from owing $25,000 to $35,000 in student loan debt. That's what we need to keep our eye on. Certainly strides have been made in the past, but it hasn't gotten the job done. This is a time in North Dakota where we have this opportunity. This is what we do to build our next economy. Oil will be gone at some day. But now, the children that we educate today, the students who go into our colleges, they will build our next economy. They will be the ones that take us beyond this natural resource play that we have today. We have to take care of that.
Governor?
I think that student debt is one of those topics that you have to take in the context of the opportunity for the student in the state of North Dakota. If a college graduate has a student debt of $20,000, that's too bad. They're going to have to pay for that over a long period of time. But if they're able to get a great job in North Dakota, and we do have college graduates going out there, by the way, getting salaries or incomes of $100,000 a year. That's the right context in which to look at their ability to pay back a student loan.
I hate to seem ungrateful, but I don't think I asked you about how to make college more affordable for students. But what I really wanted to know was how you felt about the way the higher ed board was operating, because there's huge disparity between the way the legislature feels it's going and higher ed board members feel it's going. But obviously you don't want to deal with that. So let me ask you a different question about higher ed. How do you see the role of higher education, the state's universities, colleges, how do you see that playing into the future of the state's economic engine? How important are those schools? And we're not talking about student debt. How important are those schools and what they do at those schools besides teach students? How do they play into the state's economic future, perhaps even beyond the future of the oil field? And this would be Governor Dalrymple starts.
Charlie, I think they play a huge role in our economic future. There's no question about it. Actually, we need to think of all our campuses as a great opportunity for us. Our research universities are able to take students in the STEM disciplines, put them into job opportunities in graduation that are paying salaries higher than we ever imagined possible. We also have a great opportunity with our two-year schools to do incredible training and other forms of vocational education that are going to put two-year graduates into high-paying jobs like they've never seen before. And the perfect example is our diesel mechanics program down at Wahpeton. Every single one of those graduates after 2 years has a choice of at least 3 different outstanding job opportunities. I think overall, this is not just a matter of saying to students, you are part of some kind of business strategy. What it is really is preparing every student for work or for further education. And if we take that attitude, that every 2-year program is preparing them for a specific job opportunity or for a specific opportunity to further their education, then we will make the right choices at the board level, at the legislative level, and at the executive level. And the opportunity is there. We simply need to step up and manage it correctly.
Okay, Senator?
Charlie, it's paramount. How important are these colleges? They're extremely important. The Red River Valley Research Corridor is anchored by our 2 research universities in Grand Forks and Fargo. You know, I had the opportunity, like many young folks in North Dakota, to go east for my education. Not as far east as Yale, but I did get to go to Fargo. And I learned in Fargo and brought back to the ranch the ideas that allowed us to pay off our debts and to make things more successful. You know, this is what we'll do with those students. It'll be beneficial to business. The aerospace, the technology, the agriculture, the students who will come up with the next great seed variety to make us even more productive. The students that will lead an industry that is here when the oil derricks have had to leave. You know, what we see happening in Wahpeton is important, and all our 2-year schools across North Dakota. You know, the 2-year schools regionally have been paying higher tuition in North Dakota than they have in our regional counterparts. We have more work to do there on the affordability side. We need to make sure all the other colleges that are scattered across our state, some jobs are worth $100,000. But if you're a teacher in North Dakota graduating from Minot State or Valley City State, you're still coming into a market that's 47th in the nation. So there's more work to be done. We know the universities will play a key role. That's why education was one of the first policy planks we came out with, taking care of our students so that we've educated the workforce for tomorrow.
Governor, 30 seconds more.
No rebuttal to that.
Anybody else? You're all good with that? Okay. So it seems like very few North Dakota elections go by that don't include one or more ballot measures, sometimes initiated by the legislature, but oftentimes initiated by the citizens. We've had the property tax measure, we had the Fighting Sioux measure, we almost had medical marijuana, we almost had conservation, which would have taken 5% of oil money out, but for some oddities that occurred. How do you feel about initiative and referendum in North Dakota? Is it too easy to get an issue on the ballot for the citizens? And let's just leave it at that. And we'll start with Senator Taylor.
Well, Charlie, I believe it is important to have initiative and referendum in North Dakota. We have a long history of it in this state. And the voters will need to look at the measures as they come forward and make their decisions. And I think a lot of times they make the right decision. It is right. That's what they've decided. If we look at if it's too easy or is it too hard, I do believe that it always has to be grassroots. It is actual people who are so concerned about an issue that they're going out to gather signatures for a cause that they believe in. Whatever the cause might be. And maybe it'll fail at the ballot box, but they ought to have that voice. North Dakota is one of the first states to initiate that, and I believe we can work within those parameters to make sure it continues in the future.
Governor?
I also think the right to initiate a measure and referendum is a precious right in the state of North Dakota. It's served us well over a very long period of time. Legislators, of course, are not so sure about it at times because, there they go second-guessing us again on our decisions. But it's a very healthy process. It does allow the people to have the final say in any issue that they want, a very important right. It's really tragic what's happened in the last few weeks on the two measures that look like they're now going to be tossed out. I think that is a special situation. I don't think it's necessarily something that's going to be a continuing problem. Obviously, the people who were circulating the petition did not do a proper job of educating those in the field on the real responsibilities that they had as they gathered signatures. And I think that we're going to have to make sure that circulators actually agree or sign an affidavit that says that they understand the laws and they understand the regulations that we have, and it is a very serious matter. But looking forward, I think that that will turn out in the long run to be an isolated incident, and I think we will get back to a period of time when every signature is a valid signature and we're doing it the right way.
Anything else on that issue?
Just not so much a rebuttal, but we know that this is a way that voters communicate with their public officials. And when they don't feel something is getting done, they need to have an avenue to go to. If you're a hunter in North Dakota or someone who enjoys the outdoors, and although having not read through completely the measure that's not on there right now, there was a concern that we weren't doing enough to make sure that we still had those opportunities for our kids and our grandkids. There was a concern that we weren't doing enough to make sure that property taxes were affordable in North Dakota. This is the way they communicate. We need to keep it.
Governor?
I would like to also point out, though, that North Dakota is also a measure, I think, of how well we have done in being responsive to our citizens. When you compare the number of referendums that have been successful in North Dakota versus other states, you will find that for the most part, the legislative action has held up because they have been sensitive to people's wishes out there, and that ultimately is the test of how well people are listening.
Okay, we're getting near the end of our time. I have one or two more questions I'd like to throw out, if you'll bear with me here. Let's go back to energy for a second. You travel up from Bismarck up to Minot these days, and you see a whole bunch of wind turbines. There's wind energy is being made out there. Right now, the tax credits for people who produce the wind energy implements are about to expire, and the federal government has not, as of yet, not seen fit to reenact them or to extend them. This issue came up today in our other two debates, and we had some divergence of opinion among the candidates about whether it was worth having tax credits for that sort of thing or if it should stand on its own. I'd like to know what you guys think. Governor, do you believe that, will you lobby to get those energy tax credits put back in place for renewables like wind energy, and is that a valuable part of North Dakota's future?
I think it's important to not cut that credit off cold and go from a very generous credit to nothing whatsoever overnight. And, I will fault the Congress a little bit on this. They should have more sense to know that if you are going to create a very generous credit to incent some kind of activity, it's not a good policy to make it like an annual renewal. These are investments that are made for the very long haul. And to leave the industry guessing every year whether there's going to be a credit that will allow them to stay in business or not is very important. It isn't so much the producers of the electricity that are harmed, it's those who supply the industry. If you're building towers, if you're building turbines, if you're part of creating the objects that go into that wind turbine, you're severely damaged, and people are going to be laid off. I think overall, wind energy is one piece of a policy that we need to adopt in this nation to use all forms of energy to solve the energy problem over the long haul. There is no preferred source of energy. We should look at all of them as potential ways of solving our energy needs and let them compete with each other for the ones that are most efficient and the most effective. Wind, I think, will play a role in the long run, but we need a consistent policy that they can follow.
Okay. Senator Ryan?
Charlie, yes, I would. I would fight for that tax credit for wind energy. It's important to North Dakota. It's important to North Dakota families who hold those jobs that help feed their kids with the work that they've gotten, building the turbines, building the towers. It is part of the piece. That is not everything. But North Dakota has the ability to look at all forms of energy. We'll get every drop of the oil out of the ground that we've now seen in western North Dakota. We have continued to develop coal in the state, and we've done it on the terms that Art Link set forward, so that when the coal has been taken, it's still a chance to farm that land and have cattle graze on the top of it. I've seen the results of that. Wind can exist with coal energy. Wind can exist with oil. Those are much more mature industries. Wind isn't there yet. The tax credit is needed. Wind has the opportunity to be firmed up, as they say, with the gas turbines that we could build, with the gas that is coming out of North Dakota's oil fields that is being flared off at 30% rate right now. But you could actually take the days when the wind isn't blowing and be creating electricity to go on that grid from the gas that we now are producing in North Dakota in greater amounts than we ever have. So yes, I'd fight for the credit, and I'd make sure that those industries that need a little help getting started have got the help they need.
Governor, any more on that?
Just to add, yes, the credit needs to be extended long enough so that if we decide that it's too generous, it can at least be phased out, not cut off abruptly like they're proposing right now. But the important thing to remember is that when I worked with John Hogan, we created the Empower Commission. That was the first effort in state history to really bring together all of the various energy interests and ask them to work together on promoting the development of energy in the state of North Dakota. We had some great breakthroughs there, coal talking to wind and petroleum talking to ethanol, and those were great breakthroughs.
Anything further, Senator?
I think we've expended all the wind on this one.
Very good. That's good. I like that. Okay, one more question that relates to the Federal Affordable Health Care Act, or Obamacare, as a lot of people. We talked about that a lot with the senators, Senate and congressional candidates this morning. But I have a specific question on this I'd just like to hear both of you answer. Part of that program is the setup of health exchanges. and each state is given the opportunity to set up their own, or I guess perhaps you could do regional ones, I don't know, but states have been, that was left to the states. But if the states don't do it, then the federal government will create a health exchange for you. North Dakota has chosen not to do it so far, as I understand it. So starting with you, Senator Taylor, how do you feel about that? Should the state be playing in this game?
I believe that we should have had the state exchanges because we don't want to leave that in the hands of the federal government. We have the ability as North Dakotans to take care of our own in many areas, and this is one of those areas when it comes to the health care that our citizens need. We didn't get a chance to vote on that in the Senate. It was over in the House, and Jack's departments and others actually said they weren't going to support that because, well, that was part of a partisan fight, and they didn't want to take a side on that. The side I'd take would always be for North Dakota, for what is going to work for our citizens, that would actually help keep them healthier, that would take care of our hospitals and our doctors and make sure that they're getting paid for the services that they are rendering, to make sure that we're not just fixing folks once they've gotten ill, but keeping them healthy from the start. It was one step we could have taken, and we could have done it as North Dakotans for our own people.
Governor?
I think we need to be very careful about embracing Obamacare. Government-mandated, government-administered health care, I think, is not the direction we want to go now in North Dakota. We have good health care for our citizens, and many people are very satisfied with what we have today. It's very interesting that in the last biennium, the federal government stepped up and told us they weren't going to pay for $171 million worth of Medicare expenses that they used to pay for in the past. As the state budget, we had to step up and accept that expense ourselves in order to keep our Medicaid program intact. Just an idea of what can happen as the federal government begins to back away from some of these promises. They've done nothing to prove how they will pay for this. They have not told us anything about how they're going to control the cost of health care. And for us to dive into a state exchange until we know the answers to some important questions, I think is premature. HHS, the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, is not answering our questions about the program. We don't know how to proceed. We know that the state exchange costs $50 million. It's going to take 50 FTEs to run it. They say they'll pay for it. Where is the money going to come from? There is no funding source identified to pay for that or any other part of the program. And there's also a premium tax involved in order to maintain it. I think we're right to hold off and see where we're going with health care reform before we take any further steps.
30 seconds more on that, Senator.
Well, there's a bit of a circular equation there as the governor mentions that they didn't want a federal takeover, but yet we could have had a state-run exchange. And without the state-run exchange, we have actually put that into the hands of the federal government. We'll see how this all proceeds.
Anything else, Governor, on that?
Well, again, no funding source, no means of paying for it, and to maintain the program, the exchange proposal over time, is going to involve a premium tax on insurance ratepayers. This is not the right approach for North Dakota. We need to step back. A state exchange, can have value, but only if we have the latitude to set it up on our own, do it the way that we want to, and believe me, we would do it a lot cheaper than the federal government can do it.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We did run a little over. Thanks for staying with me. It's time now for you each get a 2-minute closing statement. And since Senator Taylor went first, then for the closing statements, Governor Dalrymple will start. 2 minutes, Governor.
North Dakota has an incredibly bright future. As we look at our opportunities, we know that the people of North Dakota are resilient, they're resourceful, and they're very determined to create a future that will provide a great quality of life for decades to come. Creating that future is going to require a governor who has the experience and the knowledge of the workings of state government. It's going to require a person who has the vision to invest for the long term in our infrastructure and in our education. It's also going to require a governor who can recognize when the state government has grown large enough and it's time to put money back in the hands of our people through tax relief. Good government is not something that happens overnight. It is something that happens through good policy decisions made year after year, again and again, for great outcomes for people. I believe that I am the person who has the experience and the knowledge and the leadership experience to bring about this kind of outcome for our people. And I believe that I am the person who can lead our people in creating a great future for ourselves and for our children. I humbly ask for your vote on November 6th.
Right. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Senator Taylor, 2 minutes for you.
Well, I've really enjoyed this. This is a great opportunity to talk to so many people, not only in this room, but across North Dakota. This is exactly what we need. That's why I've accepted 7 invitations to debate just like this, different groups and communities. Unfortunately, I've only got a partner in 2 of those, this one and one in October. So I'd take just a little bit of my time to ask Jack if he'll say yes. I'll give you just enough time to say yes. Will you come to those other 5 communities with me? Will we do this debate 5 more times?
I'll do debates that reach the entire state and all the people in the state of North Dakota.
Well, now I know how Charlie feels when you get an answer like that as a moderator. This is an important election. This is an important election. This is a special time in North Dakota that we may never see again. We're glad for our blessings. We're so glad that we have these opportunities in North Dakota, both below the ground and above the ground with the farmers and ranchers who've led this economy for generations in North Dakota. But what good is the surplus that all this has created? What good is that surplus if you have to pick up the paper and read the headlines that are sometimes disturbing and sometimes a little embarrassing from our friends and our neighbors? And whether you're in Fargo or Grand Forks or Watford City or Williston, we all feel that. We're all in this together. You know, a state as well off as ours, if it was led well, would not have those headlines. We could have done better. I wasn't raised to measure our success by money, and we hear a lot about the budget surplus and how great that has made us. But we are not defined by the money in the bank, and I was never raised that way. I was raised to know that happiness was something that you couldn't sell. It came from things that were never for sale: your family, your sense of community, the fact that you and your family was safe, and that the landscape where we ranched and rode and hunted and walked was well cared for. As governor, I offer that. I will ensure that those very issues of quality of life will have a future in our state. And if you're not in your head in agreement, I hope I've earned your vote.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you both for taking part in our debate. Thanks to you folks for coming to make it interesting for everyone. It's nice to have an audience. Thanks to the North Dakota Broadcasters Association for putting these 3 debates on today. Beth Helfrich and the Board of Directors. Hope you all have a nice afternoon. Thank you.